Hey everybody, welcome to Darrell Davis Facebook Live. As usual, I want to start the program with gratitude, thanking everyone who's been tuning in. I'm seeing that a lot of people tune in on the stories. When this program is done live, I guess a lot of y'all don't get up early or got things to do on Saturday, but I'm grateful that you go into the story and watch this program. And as always, I want to remind people that this is not about a talk show. This is about empowering our people and our communities and growing a movement. And we're doing that. I'm very happy and grateful and proud that we are absolutely doing that. I will report that I've gotten a lot of calls from around the region. You know, for those of you outside of Westchester County, we're based in Westchester County. My hometown is Peekskill, New York. The organization that I'm with is the Committee for Justice, and we're active all over Westchester and different parts of the Hudson Valley, as far up as Newburgh, Poughkeepsie, Beacon. So we're getting calls. I'm getting calls from people who have different issues, either job discrimination, housing issues, police issues, and so I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm saying that we're connecting dots when we respond. When we stick up for you, it's in the hope that you will get justice and peace, whatever your grievance is, but also that you will give back, that you will be a part of a bigger movement so that in the future you or your children are not victimized again. And so I wanted, for this program, I'm going to talk about the Kiley Center, Bowman Towers, gentrification, but I want to start talking about lessons from the past, because everything that I say and do is rooted in history. And by that I mean I have taken Malcolm X's advice when Malcolm said history is the best reward for your studies. And that said, you know, we're at a crisis in America, in the United States. We are at a crisis. We are at a crisis in the world. We are on the verge of World War III. You might even argue that it exists right now, because there's, to my knowledge, there's about 140-ish, 150 military conflicts all around the world right now. To me, that is the world at war. That's the world burning. And so we're also in the United States. I have friends, different parts of the world, different parts of the country, and foreign newspapers and activists are looking at America, at the United States, and saying they're on the verge of a civil war in the United States. And this is what people are looking at, and I'm seeing it. And you know, I live in an area where I travel between two military bases, that I can see both of them in my travels. And here's what I can tell you that I've seen with my own eyes right now. I believe that the United States is on high alert militarily. I think the United States has committed through military aggression, a situation where there's going to be some retaliation, there's going to be a strike. I have seen military vehicles being deployed, moving around, driving through civilian areas. I'm seeing this. I had not seen it in a while, but I'm seeing it now. Some of these vehicles, I don't even know what they are. I don't know if you would call them a truck, a tank, or whatever, but these things are moving. And so I suspect that we're on high military alert. I think what's going on in the Middle East has gotten way out of control. As I said, I'm never voting for genocide, and what's going on in Gaza is genocide. They're exterminating these folks, Israel, and now I'm reading that Israeli government leaders are saying that the United States should attack Iran right now because they're getting ready to attack us. Well, you know, you can't be the playground bully, running around smacking people that are running behind your big brother, the United States. Nobody here has voted for this war. declarations of war, allocating missiles and jets and tanks and all of this stuff. Nobody here has said that they were for that policy. And so, the world is burning. And while that's going on, all these trillions of dollars that are going into the military, you have American naval personnel, suicide and desertions are at an all-time high. They don't want to be a part of this. During the Vietnam War, bodies used to come back, and sometimes just body parts. I can't tell you how many people have just buried a arm or a foot because the rest of their loved one was blown to pieces. And the government ordered the news media to stop showing that because they knew that the public would say, put an end to this. We have gotten so warlike in this country that the words like peace and diplomacy have dropped out of the lexicon. We don't even use those words anymore. The government corruption is at such a high. We don't even use the words corruption anymore. And so this is what happens when corporate America is calling all the shots, whether it's in the interest of oil, finance, whatever the issue. Deregulation is gone, so people are hurting. And so I put a post up, and by the way, thanks everybody who called or text, and personally, a lot of people commented. I agree, me too. I put a post that I'm removing myself from the Facebook political debates, and I don't want you to think that I'm running, because I'm not. I'm doing this as much for you as me, because when you come from me, I can defend myself lovely. But I don't want to contribute to black people fighting black people in public. One of the things Malcolm X said was that he regretted attacking Martin Luther King publicly. And because we have lost our sense of history, we have gotten rid of Malcolm and Harriet and adopted Bill and Hillary. And so when you raise issues, political issues, whether it was Biden or Kamala, when you raise these issues, the first thing these freaking bougie, fur-head Negroes say, oh, sounds to me like you're helping Trump. And I'm being raw today because I'm offended by it. I'm offended by it because I put my life on the line for black progress. I'm offended because I've marched and picketed and gone to jail and been homeless in retaliation. I've lost jobs. I've been arrested on my job, escorted off like a terrorist. And so I'm offended when I spend my whole life studying, learning, analyzing, trying to come up with solutions with like-minded people. And then to have somebody come at me, your only experience is you opened up a Facebook account. And you have that right, but come with some respect. We don't have to agree, but you have cyberbullying. You're making personal attacks. And people like myself, activists and black leaders, there are a lot of black leaders I don't agree with. There's a lot that don't agree with me. But I don't go after them. I will defend myself, but you can't find me going after these folks. And so the cyberbullying, the name calling, the shallowness, I'm not going to be a part of black people fighting black people over politicians that aren't representing you anyway. You don't know these people. You don't know how they live. They don't live like we live. We can localize it to county executive. Ken Jenkins, the deputy county executive who is in a position to become the first black county executive of Westchester County. This dude is having fundraisers at the rabbi's house. $2,500 a plate. There ain't no black people there or even being invited. Real estate people who are gentrifying, they're giving Ken Jenkins money. He's taking all of his money and he's going to come in the black community and he's going to give you a freaking fish fry and say, vote for me because I'll be the first black. But black skin is no longer enough. And it's never been enough. And if that's the case, let's just run Clarence Thomas. Who was the football player? Who was the football player? The running back that ran as a Republican is this dude.
Herschel Walker.
Herschel Walker. Let's vote for Herschel. He got black skin. We got to do better than that. Our children are dying. They're being left to the streets. They're committing suicide. They have no community centers. The funding is there if the wealthy pay their fair share of taxes. The money is there if we stop exporting it to all of these military bases all over the world and financing other people's wars. The money's there, but they're no longer serving our interests. They aren't serving our interests, and the only way you get that, to go forward, you got to go backwards. Now, the civil rights movement, our struggle didn't start there. Our struggle started when we got off the freaking slave ship. From the time we got off the slave ship, no matter what the white historians were writing, we were raising hell. We were rebelling. A lot of these slaves that came on the ship were warriors. They were captured and brought over here, and they raised hell. Some of them jumped from the ships, but they came here. And from that time, there were two roads of black liberation. America only promotes one road. Depend on them. But there was another road. You had people like David Walker. Read David Walker's appeal. Henry Highland Garnett, militant black preacher in the 1800s. You had coming all the way through history, Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey. You have all of these self-help. Elijah Muhammad, the black Muslims. The Black Panther Party, who really started the free breakfast program in America in our communities, and who started health clinics and diabetes testing. We did it on our own. We didn't knock on the door and say, can you do this? Can we have some money for this? Can we have, no. We did it on our own, because whatever they give you, they can take from you. And so if you go backwards, you will see self-reliance was a real philosophy that was successful. And when it got too successful, they burned Black Wall Street down. First city in these shores would be bombed from the sky. A community of black millionaires pulling themselves up, bombed from the sky. Black Wall Street was not the only one. What is it? Central Park. That was a black neighborhood. Like, they've been displacing us, burning us out, burning us down, and they're not writing about it. We don't know that history, but we have a oral tradition. My grandfather, he learned it from his grandfather, who learned it from his grandfather. And we pass these traditions down orally, because they're not going to write about that. And so when I say go backwards and go forwards, my philosophy is self-reliance. I ain't begging for nothing. Whatever we need, that doesn't mean I'm not demanding my fair share. Well, Darrell, what do you mean by that? Well, every group has come to these shores. Everyone except black people, black Americans, African Americans. We are the only group. And you know, they talk about the immigration, and you know, the Italian immigrants came here. When they first got here, which is one of the reasons we have the mafia. When they first got here, they were the gang problem. They were the violent problem. You know, they were the petty criminals. They were filling the jails. The United States government pumped millions of dollars into the Italian community, gave them a whole industry, construction, which they don't let black people profit from. They gave them construction, a whole industry. Irish people, they got here when the Italians moved up. Now, I might have it out of order, doesn't matter, same principle. The Irish come, they were the gangs, they were the violent ones, they were the petty criminals, they were filling up the prisons. The United States government steps in, lifts them up out of poverty, gave them a whole industry. It's no coincidence, if you watch Batman, what is Chief O'Hara? Irish. If you watch Bugs Bunny cartoons, every cartoon person has an Irish name and accent. These aren't coincidences. These aren't stereotypes. They went into law enforcement, raised themselves up out of poverty with government assistance. Jewish community, Jews came here, they were given industries. All right. We built this country, and we have been given nothing. We're the only group that it has been and still is. It used to be official government policy to keep black people down. It used to be official. I don't know if it's official, but it is unofficial policy as we speak. You know, everybody, and this is the thing, like, and I need you to hear me because, again, I'm keeping it raw today because I'm offended at some of the cyberbullying when we try to have a freaking intelligent conversation beyond someone's skin color. Like, what are you going to do about World War III? You know, what are you going to do about poverty, homelessness, people losing their houses, can't pay the mortgage, can't pay for gas, can't pay for food, can't pay for child care, can't get a decent paying job. You know, what are you going to do about those things? And anytime someone, and I'm not talking about me personally, I've seen it on other pages, here come the freaking furheads. Oh, sounds to me like you're helping Trump. Sounds to me like you support Trump. Here, let me just speak to that. First of all, I'm gonna throw my son under the bus. Say my son is having a fight, he's a pro boxer, he's fighting Mike Tyson in 3 months, all right? I go to my son during training and say, bro, you know, your jab is weak. You gotta push that thing out, you know? Put an extra hour in on your jab. My son, what do you think my son's gonna say? Oh, Dad, sounds to me like you're rooting for Mike Tyson. That's what you're doing from Biden to any president, politician, senator, congressman, because don't forget, presidential election is not the only election. You got to vote for your congressperson, your state senator, your assembly person, and the concept has to be the same. You know, what are you going to do for my community? What are you going to do to address my needs? And so if I say to Senator so-and-so, I need you to address these issues, that doesn't mean I support the other side. That means I want you better and stronger so you can win. But we have been so emotional and given so much fear, people are not being analytical anymore. I don't show up to anything emotional. I show up to it intellectually. What's best for me and my community. And so the COINTEL program, and again, you can't, if you're on a boat that has 2 holes on it, and you only plug 1 hole, the boat is still going to sink. If you only attack racism in the Republican Party, you're still going to sink. Now, when Kamala was announced, Ocasio, AOC, went public and said, look, there are elements in the Democratic Party that are against her, and they're going to try to trip her up. Now, what is my point? Because you allowed racism to fester in the Democratic Party, you have groups that are going to do everything they can to sabotage her because you didn't call them out on it. There used to be a term called the Reagan Democrat. The Reagan Democrat. Who are they? These were a group of people, Democrats, not Republicans, Democrats who decided that they were not going to support the Democratic Party if they were too pro-black. And to get those Reagan Democrats, the Democratic Party abandoned us. It was gradual. And then you also have the Dixiecrats. Remember when King was trying to get a civil rights bill passed, the Democratic president was like, it's too soon. The Dixiecrats, the Southern Democrats won't go for it. These people are still in place with their philosophies. And a lot of them are racist. But you give them a free pass. And they're going to sabotage this campaign unless you call them out on it. And so when I raise an issue or someone else asks what is Senator so-and-so or Congressman so-and-so's position on anything, that doesn't mean you're against them. That means you want them stronger and better so that they can win. And because we've gotten so emotional and gotten away from the civil rights movements, where everything was analytical, Stokely Carmichael, later known as Kwame Ture, he said we need clear analysis. We can't be emotional. We need clear analysis. And too many people have gotten emotional. And how many times in Peekskill, how many black mayors have you voted for that then turned around and tried to displace your whole freaking community? You was feeling good. Black, proud, and homeless. Think about that. It's not, skin color is not enough. I've been voting for white candidates my whole life. It's been very rare that there was any blacks running for anything. And I voted for white candidates who've done more for black people than these black politicians. Because it's not their job to do anything for the black community. Their job is to show up for a photo op. So that the white governor, the white president say, I got blacks in my administration. But they're only there to get a bigger house for themselves. Ken Jenkins, they tell me, is driving a Tesla. They also told me, and somebody said this, that he carries a yarmulke in his car in case he has to go over to a synagogue. I'm just saying what they told me, you know. And so these people are not for us. But that's okay if you have the right mindset. And here's my thing with Biden versus Trump, or Kamala versus Trump, or candidate A and candidate B. To take the emotionalism out of it, let's switch up. Let's do a hypothetical. Let's say Mussolini is running against Hitler. And I'm not one that's going to say, I'm going to vote for Mussolini because Hitler's worse. I'm never voting for genocide. Ever, ever, ever. Because I'm afraid of what the next man won't do. I'm one that will fight you and the next one coming in. And if more people had that attitude, you wouldn't have lesser evils. You get out of the lesser evils by having courage, by being bold, by being analytical, by studying what works, by forming alliances. I'm not for anybody that ain't for me. And too many times we vote for somebody who cares nothing about us. And we have to break out of that. We have to be more analytical. The Tuskegee experiment, experimenting on black GIs, you know, all these things. There were Democrats involved in all of this that some of you, your parents, your grandparents voted for. And so the only thing politicians respect is power. A lot of times I've worked with politicians off and on over the years. Doesn't matter to me whether, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, libertarians. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is when I sit down at that table with them, they respect our power. Doesn't matter. Darrell, how can you trust that power? I don't have to trust them. They just have to understand that we have power and influence, and that we can do it the easy way or the hard way. That's up to them. And so the lessons from the past is to organize. Stop running from the boogeyman. Don't vote for Mussolini because Hitler's worse. Fight Mussolini and Hitler. Send a message that you ain't tolerating fascism, evil anywhere. Martin Luther King, I'm here because injustice is here. And so we have to become bold again. We have to work on being analytical and not so much emotional. And we got to stop being on Facebook with personal attacks and cyberbullying. Everybody has their rights. And when you come at me, which some of you do, disrespectfully, we can disagree. All right, I'll bring out my credentials. You bring out your credentials, and we'll have a conversation. But I've never been disrespectful. I've been patient. I bend over backwards, while some of y'all have been disrespectful and badgering, and I'm not doing it anymore. So I've removed myself from that. And you can still find me here, Facebook Live. You can find me on Darrell Davis. You can find me on Darrell Davis, Black and Green, on every major platform, podcasting platform. But I'm not going to contribute to black people fighting black people. I'm not going to get involved in emotionalism. If you want to have an intelligent conversation on how we can move forward as a society and as a people, I'm down with that. But the disrespect and the cyberbullying, no, don't come for me. Don't come for my group, my family. Because we're not a turn the other cheek group. I love Dr. King, but we're not a turn the other cheek group, as people have learned in the past, you know. But we seek peace and dialogue and progress for everybody, and we got to get out of emotionalism and start getting into the analytics and studying what worked in the past. And to my mind, I don't care if it's Democrat or Republican. as long as you're organized and you have a philosophy of self-reliance, you will be fine. But you also got to put pressure on your Congress people, your senators. It's not just one person. They make decisions that when you lose your job and you're behind in your phone bill and you try to call Verizon or AT&T and they got you pushing number 1 and number 2 and number 3 and number 4 because they've taken all of their profit, all their tax breaks and pocketed instead of creating jobs for people living here. So they used to have 1,000 people, now they got like 200. And 100 of those are overseas making $2 a week. This is pure corporate greed. And this is where Congress and the Senate, they've let you down. They've let you down. They should be protecting your interests, and they're not because you're not aware of it. You're not looking at it. You haven't studied how government works. You just want emotionalism. You want feel good. And how good could you feel when you can't even speak to a human being and say, listen, I got laid off. I'm going to be a little late. Don't turn off my phone. You can't do that. And that's because the only reason is corporate greed. You go to the supermarket. How many cashiers are there really? You're being replaced by robotics. Excuse me, that's corporate greed. We the only ones who love this country, not the corporations, not the billionaires. They are sucking this nation dry. And unless we get analytical, unless emotional, we're going off a cliff. We're going off a cliff. I'm sounding the warning. We're going off a cliff. You've got to do better by yourself, by your family, by your children, by your grandchildren. You have a responsibility to study, to read, to analyze. It ain't enough to open up a Facebook page and start attacking people personally. It ain't enough. I ain't tolerating it. All right, I'm going to move off of that. I want to talk about the Kylie. And again, you know, for brothers and sisters that are in housing authorities, that have been tuning in, that have reached out to me, New Rochelle, Newburgh, Greenburgh, all these places where there's housing authorities or Section 8 programs or whatever, this is a case study. There's no reason why these housing authorities should not be fully funded. You've had from Obama to Biden to the Democrats controlling both houses at any given time. They're not funding public housing because public housing has become a cash crop for a lot of luxury home builders who are donating to these Democrats. In New York State, depending on where you are, number 1 or number 2 donors to Democrats are real estate interests. And so looking at Peekskill, look at anywhere, but looking at Peekskill, you have the Ginsburgs, you have the Wilder Balters, you have the same people building luxury apartments that we can't afford. Your black Democratic mayor and predecessor have not done anything for you. They haven't done anything you can afford. They appointed people to the Housing Authority Board to mass evict, to turn it over to private developers so that they will profit. In other words, these developers have donated to get these people elected and reelected, and in return, they're going to let you be abused and mass evicted and live in subpar housing and unsafe housing. And we are fighting that, Committee for Justice and our allies. And so the Kylie conversion from the Kylie Center to the Boys and Girls Club was a piece of that gentrification, and also a payoff to Wilder Balter partners who's built luxury stuff all over Westchester. And Wilder Balter's given a lot of money all over Peekskill to influencers and to different politicians, including Ken Jenkins. And so Ken Jenkins took a lot of money from Wilder Balter partners. Now, for those who don't know, you have the county executive, the head of Westchester County government. Then you have the deputy county executive, which is Ken Jenkins, an African-American who I've worked on his campaigns. We've been friends for 30 years. But when the Democrats took me out to eat 3 years ago and asked me to go along, would I go along with a plan to tear down Bowman, Bowman Towers, public housing in Peekskill on the main street, and they'll rebuild it somewhere else, bigger, better, faster, stronger. And I said no, because I know that's scam. Shortly after that, Ken Jenkins, perhaps George Latimer, he knew about it. They launched a frame-up on me. They wanted to get me out the fight. Why? Because when these people came after Bowman Towers in '84, we successfully fought them off. When it came after us again in 2000, we fought them off. When it came after again in 2010, we fought them off. When I say fought them off, we marched, we picketed, we packed the council chambers. Some of us got arrested several times. In my case, I was put on trial, 2 trials, for talking about something that wasn't on the agenda. And these are Democrats. And so Ken Jenkins went along with this frame up. And I called and said, bro, it looks like you're going after my job. All right, so they end up going in my office when I'm out to lunch. And I come back, I see papers missing from my desk. I asked the director, maybe maintenance took them. Anyway, fast forward a few months later, Westchester County Police come to my office. Sorry, Mr. Davis, turn off your computer, turn off your ID. You're being suspended, effective immediately without pay, pending a termination hearing for incompetence. Ken Jenkins. At that point, he stopped taking my calls. They handed me an envelope that had the documents that they took out of my office and never gave back to me and denied having, and they were charging me with not putting these documents in the file cabinet. And for that, they tried to destroy everything about me. They suspended me in all for 10 months. They kept suspending me, trying to break me financially, mentally, and emotionally. And I would have lost my pension. I can retire now. I'm growing my pension. And this is Ken Jenkins, black politicians that a lot of y'all are going to vote for. But just shows you how ruthless these people are. They don't care about a human being. They care about climbing to the next political level. And so Ken Jenkins, who took money from Wilder Balter, I was at City Hall when Mayor McKenzie thanked him for getting money for the Kiley Center project. I saw Councilman Dwight Douglas at a board meeting, housing board meeting, say they got $1.5 million. And so these are all paybacks. Now, did this money change hands? We don't know. We're going to find out. But the main point is that these people, they don't care about you. They're selling you out, these Democrats. And if your only answer is, well, the other side is worse, then you're a coward because you're afraid to fight for your own children. And so we fight for your children. And so that's why I can get a little testy with some of y'all. Yeah, you never even organized a bingo tournament and you coming at me? Them days are over, You don't have to work with me. There's nothing stopping you from doing your own thing. But you don't have the guts to step out there. Because the black politician gets promoted, like Ken Jenkins, and Stuart Cousins started her career on my radio show. She came on and wanted to run for county legislator. She won. She came back, thanked our listeners. We had the highest rated radio show in the region on WLNA at that time. The name of the show was Our World. But I watched her climb and leave Yonkers behind. Yonkers has this rich section, but the rest of Yonkers is like a freaking battlefield. Like there's massive crime, there's massive lead poisoning, homelessness, joblessness, and you got the second most, arguably the second or third most powerful politician from Yonkers, a black woman, doing nothing. Ken Jenkins is a black man from Yonkers doing nothing for that community. They sold those interests out to climb. And that's lack of self-love and love of your people and your community. And then you go into history, you find, as far back as you can go, black people who sacrificed their very lives out of the love for themselves and their people. Because some of them had maybe a little bit too much courage. Maybe, you look at someone like Al Sharpton, who, we've had a good relationship with Reverend Al. I still call him friend, but Al has chosen a different road. He's not in the movement anymore. Al is a millionaire Democrat. God bless him. That's his choice. But we need to know who these people are and the roles they play. Jesse Jackson is ailing. You know, he's very sick, but Jesse's a millionaire Democrat. And so all of this stuff going on, they're not in the streets anymore. They're not marching. They're not speaking out on it. And so you have to know the roles that these Democrats and these politicians are playing in our communities. I can't find a black elected official in Westchester County that uses the word racism or gentrification or police abuse. And that's by design. They only pick the ones that are self-serving. Now, I'm sure that there's a few. Nothing is, 100%, but where are they? Speak up. Why should I have to come into a community that has black Democrats elected to fight their fight? They're getting paid. I've gone into communities where I've come into the community to speak at a police brutality rally, and I left in a different car because this is how I have to live. See, when the politicians, they get promoted. The activists, they want to tear you down because you cost them millions of dollars they don't want to spend on black people. And that's the difference. And so, one of my niece asked me, what's the difference between politician, activists? And my answer will always be, the politician makes the promises. The activists make sure they keep them. All right, that's it. I'm gonna wind down this episode, but yeah, I mean, we're on the verge of World War III. There may be a civil war. If Trump loses, some of his more unbalanced supporters are going to get violent. They are going to get violent. I mean, every sign is there. They're on YouTube saying it. All right, and so we need answers, not just the other side is worse. We need solutions. We're at a dangerous point. We got to be analytical and not emotional. We got to stop cyberbullying people on Facebook who are only looking for answers or a conversation. It's gotten out of control, and it's by design. The manipulation has gotten gross, way over the top, and the only ones suffering are the citizens of the United States. Remember, if you're not at that table, you're on the menu.